We begin Phoenix Savage by keeping the boss mid-north upon pooling. Scorched Exaltation is a standard raid-wide. Heat of Condemnation will tether 2 players, targeting them with circle AoE tank busters at the end of the cast. We have the raid stack mid while the tanks grab these off of them and spread towards the arena edge. The safest way to resolve these is for both tanks to wait until both tethers have been taken off the party before spreading, to eliminate the possibility of one tank taking the other tank's tether and forcing them to run back in. When the boss begins casting Experimental Fire Plume, the entire party stacks in the center of the arena. Like the normal difficulty encounter, this cast has 2 variations, but they work slightly differently. One large orb telegraphs that a massive circle AoE will be baited by a random party member. Since we're all stacked center, we just run through the boss to the north edge to dodge. Multiple small orbs indicates that 2 small circles will hit opposite edges of the arena, before rotating clockwise for 3 more hits, in addition to a 5th and final hit in the center of the arena. For this pattern, we just move into the space the second AoEs hit, favoring the north side of the arena to keep the raid together. This is immediately followed by left or right Cinderwing, a 180-degree cleave on that side of the boss. After dodging the Cinderwing, the tank repositions the boss middle in preparation for the next mechanic. Darkened Fire will summon 4 Darkened Fire adds under either all DPS or all tanks and healers. If these spawn too close together, they will tether and explode. We resolve this by assigning 1 DPS and 1 tank or healer to each intercardinal around the boss. Notice the gold squares on the arena floor. Once the Darkened Fire cast resolves, we spread loosely for the next mechanic. The Darkened Fires that spawned are invulnerable and have begun casting Darkened Blaze. If these casts finish, they will deal massive damage and inflict damage down. Phoenix will cast Brightened Fire, and every player will telegraph when they will be hit by a circle AoE, indicated by the dots above their head. Each Darkened Fire needs to be hit by 4 Brightened Fires to remove their invulnerability. This mechanic is trivialized using the number markers on cardinals around the boss between the Darkened Fires. 1 and 5 go to 1, 2 and 6 go to 2, 3 and 7 go to 3, and 4 and 8 go to 4. Brightened Fire does inflict fire resistance down, but with this positioning, the debuff will fall off before any stack's second hit comes out. With their invulnerabilities removed, we have each stack kill the clockwise Darkened Fire before going to help finish off the others. Following another Heat of Condemnation and Scorched Exaltation, we once again move the boss to mid-north. Devouring Brand will telegraph a cross AoE and is followed by another Fire Plume. The raid moves into the safe north quadrant and stacks near the edge, avoiding the expanding cross AoE while also positioning to bait Searing Breeze, which places circle AoEs under the party. After dodging the Searing Breezes, we dodge another Cinderwing and the party immediately moves mid for the next Heat of Condemnation. Phoenix will cast 1 more Experimental Fire Plume and become untargetable. The boss will appear on the arena edge at a cardinal and begin casting Trail of Condemnation. This mechanic has 2 variations. If the middle beak is glowing with fire, players must spread on the sides of the arena to resolve circle AoEs. If the 2 outer beaks are glowing, players must stack in pairs in the middle of the arena. We use our same pairs from Darkened Fire to assign close and far positions relative to the boss. The boss will appear mid and summon a Sunbird ad on each cardinal and periodically cast Blazing Rain, dealing raid-wide damage. We assign light parties so each healer knows which tank to keep an eye on, and to evenly distribute our DPS between the ads. Each tank picks up 2 birds and kills the first on north and south, before moving clockwise to kill the second on east and west. After killing the ads, we meet mid to mitigate and heal Flames of Undeath, which deals massive raid damage and revives all 4 ads. If any of them are too close together, they will gain damage up, making the next mechanic lethal. As soon as the ads are revived, they are targetable, and the party should immediately begin DPSing them down again. After a short delay, the Sunbirds begin casting Fireglide Sweep. The birds will be tethered to either all DPS or all tanks and healers, and those players will further be tethered to the remaining role. At the end of the cast, the birds will dash to the double tether players before dashing again to the single tether players. We resolve this by having the double tether players move to the opposite bird, standing clockwise of it. At the same time, the single tether players will stand counterclockwise of their partner's bird. This positioning will darken all of the tethers, making the dashes non-lethal. After the first dash, double tether players should sidestep to ensure they aren't clipped by the second. After the second dashes resolve, we revert to our light party configurations and once again kill the birds on the cardinals. Killing either set of birds too slowly will cause them to enrage and wipe the raid. Additionally, killing the big birds too close together will give the boss a damage up buff. Note that it is possible to burn 1 bird down before the tethers resolve and skip that bird's tethers entirely. My groups chose to hold raid buffs during this phase, and instead used them with second potions at the start of the next phase. Of course, if you're struggling to meet the DPS check here, don't hesitate to use them. After finishing the ad phase, Phoenix once again casts Flames of Undeath, dealing raid damage and reviving the birds, who have now become Spark-Fledged. Phoenix will then cast Dead Rebirth, dealing enormous raid damage, and following this cast, the Spark-Fledged will throw out nasty auto attacks on the player's second in aggro for the rest of the fight. Phoenix will throw out another Heat of Condemnation before casting Fledgling Flight. At the end of the cast, either all DPS or all tanks and healers will have a Spark-Fledged appear on their head, with a target ring facing north, south, east, or west. We position on our cardinal markers with all of the target rings facing outwards, and after dropping these, we stack under the boss to dodge the Ashen Eye conal AoEs. Experimental Glory Plume is similar to Fire Plume, but with a second mechanic layered on top, called Experimental Ash Plume. Following the orange larger-small telegraph, there will be a black larger-small telegraph. A large black circle indicates that one tank and one healer will be targeted with a shared damage stack AoE, while small black circles telegraph that the entire raid will be targeted with small circle AoEs. We resolve this by having all melee dodge to north or east, and all range dodging to south or west. After dodging the orange Fire Plume pattern, we spread or stack as needed to resolve the black Ash Plume pattern. Following Experimental Glory Plume, we immediately recenter the boss for the next mechanic. Fountain of Fire has two distinct responsibilities, with the tanks and DPS handling one aspect of the mechanic, and the healers handling the other. We'll start with the tanks and DPS. At the end of the cast, two fountains will appear, either north and south or east and west. The two players closest to Phoenix will also be targeted with circle AoEs from Sun's Pinion. We have the melee DPS bait this first pair by stacking in the middle of the boss's hitbox before taking it to their respective fountain on the edge of the boss's target ring. Since I was the melee in the light party that killed the north and east ads earlier in the fight, I take my AoE in front of the first fountain that spawned, at north or east. After dropping their pinions in front of their respective fountains, both melees run through to the opposite side of the boss at max melee range, sidestepping slightly to make sure they aren't clipped by the opposing fire glide. While the melee DPS were dropping their pinions, the tank should be picking up the second pair of pinions. Pinions won't target the same player twice, so as long as the range players aren't too far in, this should happen automatically. The tanks will drop their pinions on the boss's target ring in front of the second fountains that spawn, and wait for the first fire glide to resolve before running through to stand max melee behind the other tank's bird. The ranged DPS will bait the final pair of pinions automatically and drop these in front of the third fountains before running through. From here, everyone can remain in position while the final bird tethers resolve. While the tanks and DPS handle the birds, healers each stand in their respective first fountain and, once it resolves, they rotate clockwise to the next one, with each healer soaking a total of 4 fountains. Resolving fountains deals a lot of damage to the player in them, but also massively boosts their healing potency via the Trickle of Fire buff, allowing them to throw out huge shields and heals as needed. Phoenix will cast another Scorched Exaltation, followed by Heat of Condemnation, before moving into its final major mechanic, Firestorms of Asphodel. This cast will deal high raid damage and summon 3 Darkblaze Twisters, one north, one southwest, and one southeast. This is immediately followed by Flames of Asphodel, a standard 3-to-1 dodge mechanic. While resolving the 3-to-1 dodge, Phoenix casts Experimental Ash Plume, telegraphing either a stack or spread that will resolve after the 3-to-1. We handle this by having the melee stack on the north 1 marker and the range stack on the south 3 marker for party stacks, or with melee in and ranged out for spread. After another Flames of Asphodel, Phoenix casts Storms of Asphodel, tethering 2 players. At the end of this cast, the tethered players are hit with Circle Tank Busters. At the same time, the 3 players nearest the Phoenix are targeted with Conal AoEs, and the 3 Twisters also target the nearest players with their own Conal AoEs. All of these inflict fire resistance down, making overlap lethal. We have the tanks pick up the Tank Buster tethers and stand at max melee range northwest and northeast of the boss. Meanwhile, our healers stand north of the west and east Twisters to bait their cleaves. Our physical range DPS baits the cleave from the north Twister to the side, and the 3 remaining DPS tuck into the boss's hitbox to bait the 3 remaining cleaves southwest, south, and southeast. There are tank invulnerability strats that work here, and I'll have links to these in the pinned comment, along with some of the reasons my groups opted not to use them. Following Storms of Asphodel, Phoenix casts Darkblaze Twister, tethering 2 Twisters with an orange tether, and 1 with a purple tether. We identify the purple tether Twister and stack the raid on or near the cardinal marker clockwise from it. Phoenix will cast Searing Breeze and 4 sets of circle AoEs will appear beneath the party. Rotate clockwise around the boss to bait, and we will wind up in front of the Purple Tether Twister, which is about to finish its cast of Dark Twister, which knocks the entire party back. While we're baiting, Phoenix also casts another experimental Ash Plume, telegraphing whether we have to stack or spread after the knockback. We have the tanks and ranged DPS stand on the left golden square facing the Blazing Rain Twister, and the healers and melee DPS on the right golden square. A lot of groups do this differently, and this will once again be covered in the pinned comment. After being knocked back to your destination Twister, wait for the donuts to resolve before stacking or spreading as needed, and the mechanic is resolved. After another Scorched Exaltation, Phoenix casts Death's Toll, giving each party member 1, 2, or 4 stacks, requiring players die that number of times to cleanse the debuff. This is immediately followed by another Fledgling Flight. For this set, we place the Spark Fledged on the cardinal markers facing inwards. From here, players with 4 stacks can stand center, players with 2 stacks can stand intercardinal between 2 Spark Fledged, and players with 1 stack can stand cardinal behind 1 Spark Fledged, resolving Death's Toll. Cleansing Death's Toll will result in the entire party receiving HP recovery down, which is inconvenient as Phoenix is now casting Life's Agonies. To put it simply, everyone needs to be healed to full for this cast. If you have an Astrologian like us, Macrocosmos will easily delete this mechanic, but otherwise expect to invest a ton of mitigation and healing resources to survive this. From here, there is nothing new to see. Phoenix will cast another experimental Glory Plume before casting whichever Trail of Condemnation pattern we didn't see at the start of the fight. It then repeats the Devouring Brand phase from earlier, casts 2 Scorched Exaltations, and finally enrages with Final Exaltation.